Well, here we are again. It's another VO podcast. I'm here with I want to say Alden so bad instead of Alden.
Don't do it.
I want to
Don't
call his
do
name
it.
wrong.
Don't
I'm
do
here
it.
with Alden, way up there in the Kansas City area. I'm here with Jake, who's out in Texas.
It's actually
And
Jock.
Jock. I knew I'd get it wrong.
Jakob.
I'm telling you, I can mess up anything. And then here sits myself and our guest, J Rodney Turner, and we're only a few miles apart, but we're in our own homes today. But hey, J Rodney, how are you?
I'm good, Troy. How are you guys doing?
Well, I'm doing okay.
Living the
considering
dream.
it's December.
Come on now.
I hung my stockings behind me with care so that, hopefully they'll get filled up with work.
There you go.
But
Jobs.
Right.
Jake had fielded an email we got a few weeks ago with someone asking a lot of questions about long form and audiobooks and all that, and he can kind of refer back to that. But we did an episode and talked some about e-learning and a lot of other stuff, but we did not really have the depth to go into the audiobook genre a lot, and J Rodney has narrated a bunch, and we'll get into numbers here in a minute. But Jake, who was that?
We had Erica Calvert, and this is the second time referencing her. That's awesome. First time we've done that. Erica wrote in last 2 weeks ago now. She said, "Hey, thanks, love the podcast. Thanks for all your hard work and for sharing so much with your listeners." She wanted us to cover narration, like long-form narration and audiobooks. I think she's done a couple, and she's found that she really enjoys doing them. She said, obviously, it can be less profitable given the amount of labor involved, but from her perspective, it's really enjoyable to dive into the characters and the plot. So she really wanted to talk about, whether audiobooks or e-learning, what kind of techniques work better, for instance, like, punch and roll versus clicker, and then maybe touching on maintaining vocal health, since, it's a longer form. So you obviously got to take breaks every now and then, give your vocal cords a rest, or keeping track of the characters that she has to do or that one might have to do while they're recording an audiobook. And then also she wanted to know how to find work in audiobooks and maybe long form narration as well. I mean, I know we kind of touched on ACX, but that's really all the three of us kind of knew,
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I think we can be enlightened a little bit because lay some numbers on us, J Rodney. You've done a few.
7, 8, 14. Any specific number you would like to have?
Whatever
let's
one
see.
you want to throw.
I think
How many
it's
numbers in a ticket?
right around 240 audiobooks.
Oh, wow.
and
Wow.
it's been a lot of fun. I still believe in many, many ways that I'm, just beginning and feel like a beginner still in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And we can start wherever you want to start. I will tell you that I think a couple of the most important things to know before you get into audiobooks is, number one, don't think this is a fast turnaround. You're going to get a bunch of work right off the bat. You've got to work at your craft. You've got to learn how to tell the story. And you have to learn how to tell the story so well that the author is the one who everybody believes is the hero, not the narrator. If they come away saying, "Oh man, he does millions of voices," and they don't remember the story, who cares?
Right.
You're not doing the author or the story any service. So you have to be able to tell the story. Well, the story is the star and not you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that you also have to find really good coaches. And when I search for a coach, no matter what it is, no matter what genre it is, I search for a coach who is successful in audiobook narration and is doing audiobook narration, not as a side job, but their coaching is the side job, and they do it. And I've been very fortunate that almost all of my coaches have been full-time audiobook narrators coaching on the side. A couple of them are Hall of Famers and Golden Voices. So through Audible and the APA, and you just find them in AudioFile magazine all the time. But so coaches, and then of course you have all the other technical things that you have to have, like every other voice artist. You have to have a place to record from. You have to have the ability to move around the rhythm of your family and even in some cases your neighborhood, because everybody has suffered from the neighbor that's got the leaf blower going or whatever it is that's
Yeah.
going. Guys like Troy and I, we probably don't suffer that thing because our neighbors are too far away.
Right.
So
Right.
we're very fortunate. But you have to figure those things out, and then I think the best way to really find good quality work is to join the APA and then become a member of that community. APA,
Mhm.
Audio Publishers Association. Of course, pre-COVID, it was all one way. We went to New York every May in conjunction with the Book Expo, which now no longer exists, I think, subsequent to COVID. And now Michelle Cobb, who's the executive director of the APA, I think they're doing it now in person one year, virtual the following year. And I think
Hmm.
2024 is now virtual. 2023 was in person. And then they've moved the Audies, AUDIE, which is the Oscars of audiobook awards. They've moved that from May, when it was always subsequent to the APA conference, to sometime in the spring, trying to get it into that awards season, Oscars, Emmys, Tonys, all those other awards that
Hmm.
you see. And I think they've been trying to capture that. And they always have very, very cool celebrities that host those things. And it's very, very cool when you have the opportunity to attend that. But attending APAC in person and virtually is your opportunity to put yourself and your voice in front of those people who would cast you for a job and for a book. And once you get on their radar, and they're always looking for, as Penguin Random House calls it, they're always looking for the next white whale. They're looking for Moby Dick. That's why their site is ahabtalent.com. They're looking for that next voice. They're looking for someone new. Yeah, it's easy for them to know, okay, I'll just go to Scott Brick, or I'll go to Johnny Heller, and they'll do these things for me because they're automatic. I don't have to work hard. But
Hmm.
when they find a new voice that they've never used before and they take a chance on you, you got to be able to knock it out of the park so that you
Mhm.
can then become one of their go-tos. And
Mhm.
I've been fortunate with Tantor. They send me Westerns all the time. I can't believe I get Westerns, but I get it all the time. I can't believe I sound like a cowboy to so many people, but it is my favorite work.
Hmm.
I grew up on cowboy movies and stuff. I'll never forget my mom and dad took me to the opening of Fistful of Dollars with Clint Eastwood, thinking it was just going to be another normal um, movie. And I could feel mom cringing every time he shot somebody and blood spurted out. But me, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That
you
sounds
know,
like a story of mine. My parents wanted to go see Walking Tall, and I was probably, I don't know, 8 years old,
yeah,
maybe. I wasn't very old. So we were in the back seat, and I can remember my mom pushing me and my brother's heads down every
right.
time we'd pop up to try to watch it. No, you lay down. Don't you watch this. This is terrible, you know. Yeah, that was a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
yeah.
Let's turn the clock back
Okay.
before
All right.
audiobooks.
Okay.
And I know, but it'll be a surprise to these guys. I know you served our country. Thank you for that.
I
But you
did.
Oh
Thank you
yeah,
came,
very
Mhm.
thank you
much.
very
you
much.
Mhm.
You're
did,
most welcome.
and you came out of that and went into a job that when I first saw it, I went, really? I was shocked. I thought that doesn't. It just at first wasn't a fit, but then I thought, yeah, it was. Tell them what you used to do.
I spent 4 years in the Navy and 27 years with the Federal Aviation Administration as an air traffic controller. The
Okay,
coolest job in
yeah,
the world.
yeah.
What about that?
The
That is
coolest
something
job in
else.
the world, man.
That's
Coolest job
really
in the world.
cool.
And
I
don't let
come.
anybody tell you it's stressful. That's crap. Um, I will tell you and this has happened. I had a kid in a home while I was a controller, not here in Tennessee, in South Carolina. He came to do some plumbing. He was scared the whole time. He was scared because he wasn't good at his job. And
Yeah.
he said, "I'm
Oh,
sorry,
yeah.
I gotta call a boss." Well, you have stress at your job if you're not good at it.
Yeah.
If you've promised somebody something and you can't deliver, which, I mean, so if you're good at your job, you go to it every day. I looked forward to going to work every day. And because of federal regulations, they require you to retire. You get to work up to the very last day of the month in which you turn age 56.
Wow.
So this October, I've been retired for 10 years. It's been great.
Yeah,
It's been
awesome.
great. And
That
it
is
was a great
cool.
job.
That is cool.
I wanted to ask you something, and this is not VO related. It's more so
Okay.
related to that, and we don't have to get too deep into it because
Sure.
we're not a deep podcast. But I take it you were an air traffic controller during 9/11.
I was.
Yeah, what was?
was.
Can you just? Is there anything about that day that I mean? I know that they grounded all the flights, which had never really
Yeah.
been done before. So
Some 45 minutes it took us to get, I want to say 4,400 airplanes on the ground safely.
wow,
That seems
there's
fast.
a lot of, unfortunately, I was a regional vice president of the union that represented air traffic controllers. There's a lot of things that I know that I'm not allowed to talk about.
sure,
But there are, there was a group of us that was in New Orleans at a meeting when it went down. Our national president was there, the FAA administrator and the DOT secretary, and we had meetings and things of this nature. But yeah, it was one time. It's really the last time that I can remember since 9/11 that the country really came together and didn't care what color you are, what gender you were, who you were sleeping with, where you were, what you were doing, or you cared. We cared about each other. Hey, are
right,
you okay? You
Mhm.
know, and that's really what I remember the most
wow,
about that time. And the farther we get away from it, the more people forget that, hey, we are really all in this together.
yeah.
Right. Right.
Thank you for
Right.
sharing that. Yeah, I mean, again, we won't go too into it
Yeah,
at all,
I
but
mean,
that it's just interesting. I've never obviously gotten a chance to talk to someone about that who was in air
sure.
traffic control. But thank you. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Cool stuff. Cool
Yeah,
stuff.
I will just say this: the men and women of the towers in New York, because it was a clear day, that had to look out their tower windows and watch that unfold. Um,
Mhm.
they're really true heroes, and I like to tell people when they talk about first responders, on that day, air traffic controllers were the first responders.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
Mhm.
Something else. And I agree, you know, we haven't been, we were so good for a short time and we haven't been the same since. And that's,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
pretty well the thing. So how did you make this transition? You've retired, you come home. Were you already planning to get into audiobooks, or this after you got home and you retired and started looking at, I got to have something to do?
Well, like almost everybody in voiceover, somebody sometime during your life has told you, "Wow, what a cool voice you have! You should be on the radio. You should do this. You should do that." Now, my darling bride moved here to Tennessee from East Tennessee, to Nashville, probably in the late '80s before I met her, and after she graduated from high school, and she tried to get in the music business, so she had a lot of connections, and she and I talked about, we knew, and I want to say sometime around 2005, 2006, we started talking. And two things came out of this. Number one, I needed to find something to do. And number two, she decided she'd like to try having children. And I thought, wait a minute, I'm like 47, 48. If you want to do this, we need to hurry. So, we made all that magic happen. And we have a beautiful 16-year-old daughter for that. And my daughter is special needs, but she remembers how old I am because she can add 50 to her birthday, and she knows exactly how old I'm going to be my next
Yep.
birthday. So, being the oldest dad at kindergarten is a pretty cool thing. Everybody
Yeah.
thinks you're granddad.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I like to tell people, yeah, my grandchildren are all much older than my daughter, and it just confuses them. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yep.
we sat down and we talked about, okay, what are we going to do? I'm not just going to sit on the porch and do nothing. That's number one, not fruitful. Number two, money's not going to last that long, because the
Mhm.
economy's never going to be just so stable that it just stays the same. So
Mhm.
we started looking, and in 2008, I want to say just before Riley turned 1, I graduated from the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. They had a Nashville campus right near the airport off of Elm Hill Pike. Troy's familiar with that, and
Yep.
it's real close to the airport. And it was an 8-week course. I did it on Tuesday and Thursday nights. It was great. It taught you everything you needed to know about behind the scenes in radio and behind the camera in TV. So you got to operate television equipment. You got to do the weather on a green screen. You got to learn how to use Cool Edit Pro, or what is, I guess, is now Adobe Audition, as it graduated and moved through. All these cool pieces of equipment, the teleprompter and all this stuff that you got to learn how to operate. And it was very, very cool. And it was then that we had teachers tell you, hey, go, and back then it was Craigslist. Go on Craigslist, you can look for work, blah, 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 before you graduate. And I was, at the same time, I was looking for voiceover coaches, and I've always, I guess because of my age, I was always a realist. I wasn't moving to California to try to be the next trailer guy. I wasn't gonna, go somewhere and be the next animation guy. I didn't want to do that, but I know that I've always been good at telling stories. And a guy reached out to me, my very, very, very first audiobook. He reached out to me about, it was a book about the Negro League baseball. And it was a book he wrote, and he was not publishing it through anybody. He just wanted me to record it. And I did an audition for him. He actually met a Negro League baseball player, and I can't for the life of me remember the player's name, but he was very famous. He was called Double Duty. That was his nickname, because I think he pitched and he caught. He did both. Of course, not at the same time in the same game,
Right.
but that's
Crazy.
the way he was. And these guys, the stories, I mean, he played, and then he loved it. And it's the only book, I think, that the first one I ever got that just came out on CD and wasn't published anywhere else. But he liked it, the author did, and I thought, okay, maybe this is something I should go to. So time goes on, you travel, you're working. I'm, got my quote unquote survivor job that I know I'm staying in until 56. So I began to, as technology and the internet continued to improve, well, then I would look out and go, okay, now who can coach me on this? And we've got a lot of good coaches around here locally. I coach with a gentleman named Joe Lesh, who talked to me about a lot of audiobooks. He connected me with Rodney Salisbury, who was a great commercial VO actor and coach out of LA. I did some travel. I did some moving around. Of going to coaches. I went out to LA and got coached by Scott Brick and Pat Fraley. So while all this was going on, I was, we were moving from Madison to Portland, which is, about 30 miles out here in the farm, away from, the hustle and bustle of suburbia. And Andy Arndt, who is, to me, the queen of audiobooks. She's a Hall of Famer, a golden voice. And she came to Nashville, I want to say in 2015, I guess it was. And 2015 or 15, and said, and I asked her a question at the end of the session. I said, it was a group session, all about e-learning and audiobooks. And I said, okay, I've got roughly 25, 26 audiobooks under my belt, all through ACX. How do I go to the next step? What do I do to get publishers to know me? How do I do this? And she looked at me and said, oh, that's simple. Join the APA and come to APAC. And I thought, okay, so I only have 2 follow-up questions. She said, what's that? What's the APA and what's APAC? So, okay, great. I mean, when you're starting out,
Yeah.
you don't know what you don't know.
That's
So
right.
she said,
Right.
she explained it to me. And in 2016, I went. It was in Chicago. Then in 2017, I went to New York. 2018, I went to New York. And I thought, okay, I'm building it up, And my wife at the time says, honey, how much longer till you get famous? And I said, well, it's going to be a while, babe, before I'm famous. I said, but I just got this feeling that it's going to turn around. I don't know why. I mean, it's just one of the things you think, And I got a standard email from one of the young ladies, casting director at Tantor Audio, and she said, hey, Rodney, we're trying to find out, reestablish everybody's sound. We just want everybody that's on our roster to give us a piece of their work. Just so give me something you've done recently. And in between time, I stayed pretty busy on ACX. I was pretty lucky. I have, and I'll talk about the horror writer that lives here in Tennessee that is basically writing work for me now specifically.
Wow.
And
That's the gig.
yeah, it is. And I I thought, okay, so let's go. Well, I came up here and I just got 2 minutes of what I had done that morning in a WAV file, and I sent it to her. Well, I'm sitting at lunch and sitting in front of the television, and daughter's at elementary school, and I get a text. Hey, we have this book we'd like you to consider doing. Can you have time to do it? Well, it's a Western. I almost jumped out of my skin. I thought, okay, that's cool. When you were doing your email, oh, sure, I think I can plug that into my production schedule.
Yeah, keep
I
it
don't
cool.
think
Keep
it'll
it
be
cool.
too
Let me check
terrible,
my
you know?
calendar.
So,
Right.
let me check my calendar and I'll get right back
Mhm.
with you.
Yeah.
I responded yes, and it was number 2 in a series. And I thought, okay, this is strange. So I asked, I said, do I need to listen to number 1? Or I said, or does it matter? Is this, she said, no. And since you can do number 2, can you do 3 through 6 too? I thought, I looked at my wife. I went, well, I'm kind of famous. I said, at least I'm getting paid now.
That's
So,
right.
it all
That's
just,
right.
it all just came together. And I've been busy with them at a minimum 1 book a month from them, sometimes 2, and sometimes more if I can stuff it in. And like I said, I've got this author who lives out in near Smith County. His name's Ronald Kelly. He writes horror books, but they're all based in some small fictional town in Tennessee.
Mhm.
And they're mostly based on, kind of a coming of age children, grandpa, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I asked him very simply, I said, do you want to pay me per finished hour? Or would you like royalty share? He said, well, I have to do royalty share because I don't have the money to pay you. I said, okay, well, I've got 2 books that so far in royalties have paid me probably 5 times what I would have gotten if I had just gotten the money outright. And
Mhm.
and now he's starting to write this cowboy zombies series that's
Ooh.
that's just really cool. And I've done 2 of them, and he's in the middle of writing 3, 4, and 5. And he's now writing a sequel to one of his other very successful audiobooks. And it's just, it's been fun. Like Troy and I and like we say down here in the South, I feel blessed.
Yeah, that's right.
You know.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep.
Now,
Very
So-
fortunate.
Let me ask you this real quick. So,
Sure.
and again, I've never done an audiobook, but I mean, looking at like GVAA and stuff like that, as far as like rates and whatnot that audiobooks
Right.
can go for, there's always an option that you can edit it yourself or you can hire an editor. Do you edit it yourself?
It depends. I just got
depends.
a job earlier in the year. I'm going to say it was summertime. You get emails. Hey, we'd like to have you do our book. And I thought, never heard of you. So I do my research, and that's probably the single most important task to
Right.
be able to master in audiobooks is to be able to research. Number 1, research who's asking you, offering you work to make sure they're legitimate. Number
Yeah.
2, research because when you do your prep, you have to be able to find these pronunciations. You've got to be able to make sure they're accurate because your proofer's not always going to get it right. And you got to make sure you are. So, you got to do that research. And they called me. I set up a Zoom. They're legitimate. They set up a Zoom, the 2 of them with the author. We chatted like we're doing right now. We talked about my part of the book, and it's a fairly long book, but they're using more than 1 narrator, and I'm doing the first part. Naturally, the first part is like in the mid 1800s, 1840 to post Civil War era, and then somebody else takes on and moves on. And he said, so I need to know your rate. I said, well, I have 2. I have Rodney narrates and then you do all post-production. And then there's Rodney narrates and takes care of all post-production. And he said, okay, what's post-production? So I explained it to him. You got to have somebody proof it, then you have to have it fix it, then you have to have it edited, then you have to have it mastered to proper standards. Okay, we'll take number 2. I said, all right. So, I do sometimes. I'm fortunate. I taught my wife to proof. It's the funniest thing in the world when she started, because she would always giggle when she found a mistake. You made a mistake, Mr. Perfect. So, it's just kind of giggles, her and my daughter both kind of laughing. Daddy made a mistake. So, I'm thinking, well, they happen, it's one of them
Right.
things. But she's also, and I laugh when she kind of picks the fly poo out of the pepper, so to speak. I mean, she's really detailed. And I'm like, and so when I do my pickups, I go, yeah, I'm not redoing that one. I just won't tell her. And I'm not redoing that one either. We're just gonna move on. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. Now, for a publisher, I don't care what they send me. I fix everything, even if I think it's wrong. And I'll give you an example. So because I do a lot of cowboy work, I get a lot of Indian names. And Shone, a lot of white Americans pronounce it Shoshone. And it's actually Shoshone. And that's how it's pronounced by Webster. And that's how it's pronounced by the chief of the tribe when you Google him on YouTube. So I figure if the tribe chief knows how to pronounce it, then I think I'll pronounce it his way. So I did it that way in one of the first books. And even the Tantor proofer said, hey, it should be pronounced like this. So I did my pickup with Shoshone, and then I emailed them and I said, okay, my Webster says S-H-O-N-E is Shoshone. Plural ends in an I, and then it's Shoshone. Here's my YouTube video of the chief saying his tribal name, but I've also made you the pickup. You get to decide. Well, they decided to keep it my way and the tribal chief's way. And I got at least 3 reviews. Well, the book was great, but he don't know how to pronounce Shoshone. It ain't Shoshone, it's Shoshone. Golly, get somebody to pay attention. And I thought, well, if you'd pick up a dictionary, you'd know too. But
That's
it's, it's little things like that
Yeah.
that I think both set audiobooks apart from 15-second spots. But and it's just an immersion. I'm in a book now that's that I know is a series because I've already got number 2 that's scheduled for May. So it's and it's a great Western written by people, another author, of actually the niece of a very famous Western author, William W. Johnstone. His niece, J.A. Johnstone, lives in Murfreesboro. And their Tantor has most of his titles, and I'm fortunate to get a lot of them. And this one happens to be another really, really good, well-written Western. And I think that's the other thing that you will get as you progress through your career. Better work will come your way when it's time for you to get it.
Yeah.
A lot of my early work, I thought, okay, I can make this sound good. That's what I'm supposed to do. But then when you get work like this, or this work I know I'm getting from Ronald Kelly, it's just a joy to sit down and prep it, because you get excited about, oh man, I can't wait to do this guy's voice, and I can't wait to do this character, and it's gonna be fun. And then, you learn your techniques from your coaches and others and your peers for tracking all that and using technology to your advantage. And then, like I said, you manage the rhythm of your home, the rhythm of your neighborhood, figuring out which time is best for you to record, and then you tell the story, and it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Well, Jay, you were talking about the post production and the mastering process. The audiobooks I did were with ACX, and I know their standards are the standards when you send your finished product to Tantor. Are they different, or are they similar to the ACX finished
I
standards?
haven't the slightest idea. That's the beauty of Tantor. I send them WAV files. I load WAV files on an FTP site, and then they have somebody proof it. They send me
great.
They send me
Awesome.
my list Excel spreadsheet of corrections, and they send me a highlighted manuscript where the sentences they need me to redo, and then they send me a voice match reel, which has my mistake, so I can listen to it and I can hear the voice I use, the character. If it's, I mean, I don't have to worry about it if it's neutral narration, but if it's in character, then I get to hear how I did that character, so that when I redo it in the same character's
Yeah,
voice.
Right,
yeah,
right.
And then
yeah.
then I put that voice match file together in one wave file with like 5 seconds in between each spot, and then I load it back up to the FTP file, send them an invoice, and 10 days later, boom, money just shows up in your bank like magic.
Nice.
That's the way to
nice,
be, right?
Amazing
nice.
thing. Yeah.
You were talking about pronunciations. I do and I've done somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000 YouTube narrations since I started in this crazy business, and a lot of that was in my early days to learn. I mean, that was one of
Sure.
the best teaching things I'd ever done.
Right.
And I still have one channel left. It's called Space Matters, and
Troy's a space cowboy.
yeah, they call me the Space Cowboy. Yeah, sure. But anyway, I had done a couple of things with them, and they had all these dinosaur names. And like you, I'm researching. I'm going to Youglish. I'm going to wherever to make
Sure.
sure I get these right. And fortunately, they were fine. Everything went good with that. Well, then I got to one a few weeks ago, or it was longer than that, a few months ago, and it was talking about the moons of, when I went to school, it was the moons of Uranus. We all said Uranus.
That's right.
Right?
That's it. Yep.
So they came back and wanted me to say Uranus. I did it. I re-recorded everything and said Uranus, and all the comments on the YouTube channel were making fun of the way I said it.
Yeah, we're making fun of the
And
way
I said,
you say it.
and I said, why can't we say it the other way? He said, because people snicker at it. They think it's funny.
Yeah.
And
Well, it is funny.
It
That's
is
probably
funny. It
that's
is.
probably why the scientist that discovered it named it that.
Exactly.
Yeah, because how often can you look up in the sky and go,
Right.
"Hey, there's Uranus"?
There's
Yeah.
Uranus.
Yeah.
I did that to my mom when I was 7, and well, I don't remember much after that.
But it's still funny.
Don't
It is.
remember.
Yeah. Talking
Well,
about
hey,
the bright moon of Uranus.
That's
you know?
right.
Yeah.
It's still funny.
listen,
I
it's
don't care what
Christmas
you-
time. We
Still
get to
fun.
sing about
That's right.
where ass are sleeping,
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
Christmas time.
Exactly.
So, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to talk about, taking breaks, because
Yeah.
this is long form.
Yeah.
What's your routine? How do you do
Well, my routine is very strange because the rhythm of my neighborhood and my home is different. Because I have a full-time job. I drive what's called a 2-car unit for CarMax. I started this Labor Day of 2022. It is the easiest job I've ever had. I go to work. I drive this big 26-foot, 23-foot, 26,000-pound diesel truck, and I load up to 2 cars on it and carry them between the 4 CarMax stores here in Middle Tennessee. But my schedule is such that I only work 7 days of the 14-day pay period, so the other 7 days I'm off. And I have to work 12-hour days. I work 8 to 8. So on a day like today, I'm up around 2 in the morning. I get in the booth. I kind of do my vocal exercises. I make sure I'm hydrated, and then I sit down and I start recording probably anywhere between 2:20 and 2:30, and I'll record on an off day. I try to get at least an hour to an hour and a half of finished audio, and I can do that in one sitting without having to worry about taking a break. And once I get that done, and I keep it all on a little Post-it note. I just write down each chapter how much it was, and I keep the running tab on how long it was. And then once I know I reached that, 60 to 90 minutes, if I'm feeling good and I'm on an off day, and I can hear in my booth. The good thing is with this U87, I can hear a net fart in the first floor. So, if I hear the dog or my wife moving around or my daughter gets up, I go, okay, it's just time for me to stop recording. That's just kind of silly. But if I feel like I can go ahead and do one more chapter, I'll look and I keep it written down on a small pad, and I'll say, okay, that's 10 more pages. That's probably going to be another 13 minutes, about a half hour. Yeah, I can do another half hour. That's okay. Or if I feel like I'm done at 58 minutes, I'll just be done for the day. And then I'll do that. Now, on work days, if I'm pressing up against a deadline, then I'll do 1 or 2 chapters before work, and then I leave the house. I generally leave the house about probably 4:30 to 4:45. I stop at the gym, do my thing, get a shower, get dressed, and I head to work. I get home on a work day about 8:30, 8:45. And then, because I work at the Rivergate CarMax, and Troy knows where that is. But I get home and, I touch base with the wife, the daughter. Hey, how's everybody? Shower, get ready for the next day. I'm in bed by 9. Boom, I'm done.
Wow.
And then it starts over. So yeah, it's and everybody, every audiobook narrator I know has their own routine. Some get up and have coffee with the spouse, get all the kids off, and then when they get home, now I'm gonna record, or now I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna do that. And everybody's got their own routine, and you have to figure out what's gonna be for you. One of my coaches, David H. Lawrence the 17th, teaches having a bias for action. If it needs to be done, go ahead and get it done. Don't sit back and go, I'll do it tomorrow. You get it done now. Then if something catastrophic happened, and I'll give you an example. This book is not due till the 12th of December. Today's the 5th. 1, 2, 3. I've only got 9 chapters left. I can do those, and I can be done by Friday. But tonight, if a storm comes through and knocks the power out, or Wi-Fi goes out, or everything goes haywire, I don't have to go, oh my gosh, I got half the book left because I didn't get started when I should have.
Right. Yeah.
But you get started on time, or you get started early. And Tantor is great about sending you your what they call the recordable copy. They'll send you prep copy, which has everything in the book. Then they send you recordable copy, which only has what they want you to record. They take out the appendix and the index and anything else, and they'll take out the forward if it's not going to be said. They'll take out the dedication. They'll take out to my mother and father who raised me well. I mean, they take all that stuff out that nobody generally wants to hear. If it's in, then it's important to somebody. So you got to nail that part. But you'll go ahead and do those things. And then that's all you have to do. And if they send it to me and I'm not busy, well, I'm going to get started tomorrow morning because I've got it, and I'm not going to, because I've had times when things happen. And you may have something catastrophic happen to your voice, like happened to me in 2020, I guess it was, right before COVID. My vocal cords just went out, period.
Wow.
I could talk, but I couldn't record for more than 10 minutes.
Oh.
And it would just flat out go down. I had something called some kind of paralysis of my right vocal cord. Had to go to the Vandy Vocal Clinic. Had to be under their care from probably March of that year till probably September or October. I had 3 authors that saved their books for me, but Tantor had to move on a couple of copies, and I had to kind of get back in the swing of when my voice finally got back together. But all those things say, don't wait, go now. You got time now, do now, and be ahead of the game. And it'll serve you well down the road if, like I'm trying to get into another genre. I've been talking to Troy about trying to get into some automotive work. You still have to have that in you of, okay, you sent it to me, you got a deadline, I can knock this out, boom, I'm done.
Right.
As opposed to, oh no, I don't want. I mean, if you're knowing, you ought not be doing the work.
Right.
You gotta love it.
You talked about in your routine doing vocal warm-ups. You don't necessarily have to do any, but could you maybe give us a description of 1 or 2 of those? Because that was one of the questions that our Erica wrote in about. She said, what's a good vocal warm-up, or at least
two of my favorite vocal health issues. Number 1, I use nasal Navage. It's that little battery operated thing you stick up your nose, and it's like a neti pot. Well, it's battery operated, runs salt saline through one side of your nose and out the other, and it all gets caught up in this little thing.
Mess free then.
And I started using one, and started doing the neti pot first in 2018 after Tantor hired me. And since then, I've never been sick.
Wow.
I've never had a sore throat. I did get COVID, but nothing else has ever happened. And I Navage every morning. Now, my wife bought me a Navage last Christmas, and I've used it every single day since then, and I still don't have a problem. And the other thing I got from one of my vocal therapists, it's a cup of water with a straw in it. And what I will do is I will blow through it where it will blow the water like you're blowing bubbles as a kid.
Yeah.
But also because I'm a singer, just at church, but I will start low and go high and go back through the octaves. And that can and will, and I've seen it reset your voice to a more neutral location where if your voice gets tired and you still have, let's say I've got 2 more pages I need to get done, I can go to this, I can blow, set it down, and just go back to recording for that 2 pages. And now I'm done. Now I know it's time to rest.
That's super
Awesome.
interesting.
Kind
Thank
of a
you.
resistance exercise. It offers
Yeah.
resistance blowing through the
Exactly.
straw.
Now, I will
Yep.
tell you that one of the coolest things to do, and I bought it, is Rodney Salisbury has a tongue twister thing that he does, vocal exercises, vocal warm-ups, and he's got a whole book of them, and they're very, very cool, and he's a cool guy too.
Neat.
Well, Jay, I'm
Alden,
curious about
questions?
I'm curious about when you first get a book and how you come up with the characters. You started the show talking about how your most important job is to make the author the hero
Right,
of the story.
right.
So the author has the idea of what the characters are in their mind. How do you match up with the author? Do you work with the author on that? Do you just go through some descriptions they've written down to come up with your
What
characters?
if they didn't put it in the book? Then they didn't put it in the book, and it's
Yeah.
not important to them. But
Yeah.
when they put it in the book with the whatever the attributions are, even if it's he whispered, she whispered, those kind of things, those are still important, but they're not as important. So what I do when I first get the book, I'll get a yellow legal pad and I'll write the title of the book down, and then I'll just begin reading it like I'm doing it for leisure. I'm doing it because I'm enjoying the book and
Yeah.
enjoy the story. Every time I get to a character, I write the character's name down. Then to the right of that, I will write down attributions or common traits that the author has told me is that character. I will also make notes of how other characters in the book feel about that character. And sometimes how that character feels about themselves, because the author will tell you. And
Yeah.
the key is, as Johnny Heller would tell you, characters in a book don't know they're characters in a book. They think they're real. So you got to remember that, and you got to play that. So, when I'm
Love it.
playing the Mexican bandit, well, then I'm going to be the bad guy and I'm going to put it on them. And if, I'm playing a Scottish mountain man, then I've got to do that as well. But I don't quote unquote do accents.
Mhm.
I give a touch, I give a hint. And that way, it's not about me and my abilities. It's still about the story, because listeners can suspend that,
Yeah.
the reality for a minute and go, okay, this guy's not Scottish. But that was enough for me to know that that's what that character's doing. So and once you get through it all, I just have notes with what I'm going to do, and then I keep them with me in the booth. And if I know it's a series like the one I'm doing now, I will set apart on my Mac, I will set apart a file that will have character voices, and I'll name the character, and I'll give them it'll be 10 to 15 to 18 seconds of dialogue that I gave that voice to that character. And then
Mhm.
if down the road he shows back up in book 3 and he hadn't been there since book 1, I can go back to book 1 and go, oh, there he is. That's where I put him. That's
That's smart.
the placement in my mouth,
Yeah.
the placement in my head, how deep in my chest, or
Mhm.
was it a female? Did I give it a little softer touch, or was it a
Oh, yeah.
child? Was it a
Yeah.
child? And do I have to give it a little whimsy? Do I have to give it a little more innocence? So you learn all these things, you learn them, and if you have really good coaches like I've been really fortunate to have some of the best coaches in the world. you get to do this and have fun at the same time and get paid pretty decent.
I was going to ask about female characters too,
Mhm.
because, I've listened to a number of audiobooks. My wife listens to audiobooks, and sometimes they just go way too far trying
Yeah.
if a male's doing
Mhm.
a female or a female's doing a male character. And
Yeah,
it loses your
it does.
opportunity as a listener to use your imagination and get in the story.
Yeah. So what I do, the first most important voice to me is the neutral narration voice.
Mm,
Then it's the hero. It's the main character. Those are probably the two closest voices because they're going to be closest to mine and they'll be
mhm,
easiest to get in and out of. Then I have to pick where I go. I don't do generally high pitched voices, but I'll do softer and I'll pitch it up a little.
mhm.
So if I'm doing dialogue and it's a guy and he's gonna, if you don't move or I will shoot you, you have to understand that's the way it's gonna be. Because I don't care that you're a girl. But but it wasn't me. It was him. I, I didn't I didn't do that. So it's really me, but it's
Mhm.
enough contrast between the characters that he or she is talking with that you can discern that there's different people talking.
Right, right.
And
Don't
it's
shoot her, Rodney. Don't shoot her.
yeah, don't shoot her. Ever. She did it again. All them harlots are the same.
The complication of all of that, and I feel so bad thinking that the three of us are complaining every day that they're asking for real conversational,
Right.
not announcery, and we
Not
got to
announcery.
remember all that
Yeah, I
stuff.
don't ever have to worry about announcery.
Yeah, yeah, that's
You talked about meeting people, maybe other or know at least knowing other audiobook narrators. The way we
Sure.
formed this podcast in the first place is that we're an accountability group. Did you find
Sure.
it beneficial to meet other audiobook narrators? And if so, what was maybe one or two things that really stood out about meeting other audiobook narrators that helped you in any way?
Well, a couple of things was okay. Everybody's going through the same struggle. It's not just me.
Right.
Mhm.
You're new at one point, but then you have a little success, and as long as you're reliable, you'll continue to have success. I mean, I just happen to be one of those guys, and I was brought up in South Florida. Okay, I was a Miami boy, born, bred, and buttered in Miami, and my mom and dad took us to church every day, Southern Baptist. So I've got a real strong faith and foundation. It's not one I carry on my sleeve or wave like a flag, but I hope to set an example for how you're supposed to treat folks. And
Sure.
if you see my faith through that, then I'm satisfied with that. Um, so when I sit down and talk to others and I find out that they are going through similar trials and tribulations, oh, I'm never going to get a book. I just tell them the work that belongs to you, I promise, will come to you. It's going to come to you. Bob Sauer, one of my favorite narrators and a really good friend, he only does nonfiction. And he'll tell you, I only do nonfiction. I don't do character voices. That's it. If you don't have nonfiction for me, then I probably don't have anything to say to you. Now, he does some e-learning and he does some
Yeah.
commercial work, but for the most part, he's a nonfiction narrator and
Mm.
he is busy all the time. He's done the Bible 4 times.
Wow.
And his first audiobook was the Bible
Wow.
Wow.
ever.
Yeah.
So, and he got his start. He was working for Billy Graham. So,
Wow.
I mean, that's how he got his start. But
Yeah, I
he'll
think I
tell
knew
you
that.
that when he gets done, he'll say, "Lord, thank you for this book. Please send me another." I mean, and that's it. I mean,
Yeah.
he's not I mean, he'll do his marketing, he'll do things like that, and I do. I mean, Troy and I have talked about marketing because, it's gonna be a big deal if I can get into automotive. So you still have to know how to do it, but in audiobooks, it's different. Casting directors and audiobook publishing houses, they don't want you sending them stuff once a week. They don't want you sending them stuff. Once a quarter, maybe once every 4 months. That's good, but they don't want to know that you have availability in a month. They need to know what you're doing 6 months to 7 months out.
Yeah.
Because they're already booking for May, June, and July. They're not booking for tomorrow. afternoon.
Mm.
Now, I like to tell them, that's cool, but I've always carved out some time in my production schedule in case you have one come across your desk that needs to be done right away. I'll make time for you. I'll try to push some stuff aside. And, that's, you just have to have that flexibility. But
Yeah.
the marketing is still strong. But the most important thing about marketing as an audiobook narrator is you do have to go to APAC at least once, even if it's virtually, so you can meet. Now, I was telling Troy when we were on the Zencaster that I've got this Friday, I have my first opportunity at what's called Quick Pitch. Quick Pitch is an APA replacement for what was used to be called at APAC speed dating. You would go in this giant room with 18 or 19 tables in it, and producers and casting directors are all sitting at the table from different publishing houses. Well, everybody would get sent in and everybody would sit down at the table and they would tell you the rotation. You get 4 minutes and boom, ding, bell went off, everybody up, next table, boom, go, just like speed dating. Well, what you're doing is you're talking to a producer, you're talking to them, you're telling them what you're good at, blah, blah, blah. Well, Quick Pitch has now become a virtual speed dating, but it's lottery and they only pick 24 and they probably do it 3 or 4 times a year. So I've tried for 6 times. Finally I got in. So now Friday, I'll have 2 or 3 minutes to pitch myself, tell them my story, answer any questions, and then they'll say, thanks, see you later. And that's it. And you might get an email, you might not. But for the most part, you're now putting your voice in front of people who you've never been able to put your voice in front of.
Right.
And I happen to be one who's like Bob Sauer. I just tell them, look, I'm your cowboy. I mean, if you don't want me doing Westerns, well, then you don't want me. If you think my Southern accent that everybody in the industry obviously believes I have, but everybody in my family thinks I don't have, then okay, I'm sorry. But I'm not getting rid of my Southern accent. It is what it is, and I am who I am. I'm not ever going to try to be somebody else. And I tell people all the time, I can't be Scott Brick, I can't be Johnny Heller, and I can't be Sean Pratt. But they can't be me either.
That's true.
If Johnny Heller tried to be me, he'd pull something. He'd strain a ligament if he tried to do my voice. But I can't do that stuff that those guys do. But everybody has their place. Everybody has their place.
Amazing stuff. This is so cool to me because of all the resistance I've had for 3 years that I don't think I would ever do a book. Now he's got me thinking.
Yeah, it's got to whet my appetite again to do.
I get the I get the storyteller time. I get the storyteller thing all the time, and I get that with reads, and especially long form. I did a thing for Ohio University a few weeks ago to inaugurate a new president, and they were talking about how there were 1,000 people in there, and the guy said there was not a dry eye in the room.
That's right.
When we played your narration, and that's the thing. That's what you want. You want to touch people, and now he's
you
got
just
me
now
curious.
have to do it for 12 hours.
You got me curious. You got me curious. Wow.
I am curious,
stuff.
Jay, what's the turnaround you typically are expected to have when you get a new audiobook?
Tantor is I'm fortunate they give me plenty of work. They're the only publisher that I regularly work for. I've worked for Dreamscape a couple of times, and I've had a couple of other indies. But for the most part, if it's about it depends on how long the book is. How long is it going to take you to get me the prep copy? Are you sending me the final copy? I mean, are you going to add or take away from it so that I'll know what I'm supposed to do? Does it have footnotes that, if it's nonfiction, does it have footnotes you want me to read or footnotes I can eliminate so that I can tell how many words it's going to be and then how long it's going to be? So the rule of thumb is 9,300 words to one finished hour. So, and I'm right now at about 2.5 hours for one finished hour of copy. So, like this book I'm doing now, it's probably going to come in at 11 to 12 hours. So I gave them a kind of a 2-week to 10-day 14-day schedule,
Mm.
that gives me fudge factor, because I know that if I'm strong and my voice is strong and I can do an hour and a half every day, then 8 or 9 days and I'm done. But I've also got 4 or 5 days of wiggle room in case something happens. And I'll give you one example. If it rains here in my studio, my studio is in the 2nd floor. It's also on an outside wall, and the roof is right over the head. So when it
Yeah.
rains,
You hear it.
you're not recording unless you just
Right.
happen to want to record noise,
Yeah.
rain noise hitting the roof.
Louder
That's
than the
not
gnat fart.
Yeah, much louder, especially this close, because the gnats generally only fart on the 1st floor. One of those things, But those are the things that you just you gotta know. You gotta know your neighborhood. You gotta know
Yeah.
your family.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the two things that I can't control here the most, and you probably get them too, because we're in some kind of helicopter flight path.
Oh yeah, there's there happened to, as your favorite retired air traffic controller, there is what's called a visual route that the Army in Clarksville uses that actually flies right over my house.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I
but the
get them
good thing
too.
is most of the time they do it at night, and they don't have their lights on because they're trying to be secretive. So yeah, it's kind of cool. Hey, Daddy, what's that noise? Well, that would be a helicopter doing training, darling. They'll be done in a minute.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
I mean that happens.
Occasionally during the day, but you're
Occasionally,
right,
yeah.
mostly at night. And the
Mostly at
other
night.
things I can't control here, I don't know how many 100 yards I am away from 174, but there's a hill right over there, and everybody has to accelerate up that hill. And if
Yes.
it's a truck with a
Yes.
loud muffler, I'm going to get that.
Yeah.
I'll get
Yes,
I'll get
sir.
some dogs barking. Mine, if the UPS guy's anywhere near and they hear him, I got to deal with that. And across the road they farm.
Yeah.
They put it in corn or soybeans, and that's
Right.
usually only about 4 days out of the year. It's when they put it in and when they take
Right.
it out. Not too bad, but I'm with you. Being out in the country does help
It does.
some. It does
helps.
help some.
That's another reason I record between 2 and 6, because right around 4:30 is when everybody's running up Dobbins Pike to head to Gallatin Road, head to the next
Yeah.
city to go to work, because that's a
Yep.
major thoroughfare. And
It
they,
is.
they
It
drive
is.
right by here and off to the races. But yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I've still
Yeah.
got probably a good 2/10 of a mile worth of hayfield that I don't have to worry about.
There you go.
Lots of
There you go.
space. Lots of space between me and them.
Have you guys got other questions? I mean, I know we could go on for another
Probably,
hour,
but this has been so good.
Yeah, I was
I'm
gonna
happy to
say,
do
like,
this. We can
this
do
is
this as
honestly
often as
probably.
you want. I love
Well,
it.
yeah, we do
we'll
try
do
to
it
keep
again
them.
for sure.
Yeah, we should. Honestly, we might have to, just because I was just messaging the guys. I was like, man, I feel like we could just keep going and going. And I think a lot of that is because we really don't do that kind of work. And plus, the way you say things is just so nice.
Well, audiobooks come in series, so
that's what I'm
interviews
saying.
might,
Yeah,
might as well come in
That's
series
right.
too.
We could
That's
do
right.
that, audiobook once a month. You never
right,
know.
That's
there you
right.
go. But no, this has probably been the most interesting episode, in my opinion, at least for me, as far as when we've had a guest on. And it's just because I probably know so little about it. I can't say that I necessarily want to get into audiobooks, but that's just because a personal preference. But I love
Sure.
hearing what you've got to say about it, your story, how you got into it, and just your process. Super interesting. And I have no doubt our writer, Erica, who wrote in, she's going to be so glad that she tuned into this episode.
Well, and
Yeah.
and just so everybody out there that's listening knows, if you want to get into audiobooks and it's something you just want to chat to somebody about, you can email me at rodney@jrodneyturner.com. I will set up a Zoom session for you. It will not cost you a dime, and you can ask me
That's
any
awesome.
question you want about anything you want about
Wonderful.
audiobooks, and I'll take as much time as you want to answer those questions. It's not for everybody.
Mhm.
But if it's something that you think, hey, I really want to learn about it, email me. We'll chat. It doesn't cost you a dime. It's my way of giving back. I've got some of the coolest coaches in the world, and they've done me many, many favors. And it's my turn to help somebody that wants to learn.
Love
Well,
it.
then the one last question has to be,
Sure, man.
because you've been doing this a long time. You've got a lot of books on your belt. Are you thinking maybe you may start coaching down the road, or?
I don't think I'll ever coach. I mentor. I mentor
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm right there with you.
But
I feel the same way.
performance coaching, I think performance coaching takes a whole nother special kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if
I agree.
if I had 4 or 5 Audie Awards and numerous earphone awards like most of my coaches have, I might consider it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, let me say it this way. When I do anything, whether I'm working on my books, or I'm interacting with other narrators or other voice actors, I think to myself, am I making my coaches proud? Are
Right.
they saying, I coached that guy? I don't
Right.
want them to go, oh my gosh, you taught him that. I mean, you
Right.
know, I want to honor the time and
Mm-hmm.
effort and work that they've spent on me.
Right.
Sure.
Even though I
Right.
paid them.
Right.
I mean, I've paid them, but I can tell you many of them have given me, and I'll give you an example. When I was coming back from my vocal issues, I needed to record something and have people I trusted. I reached out to 3 of my coaches, Carol Monda, Johnny Heller, and Sean Pratt. I sent them all the same file. And I said, you guys know me as well as anybody. Tell me what you hear. And without fail, every one of them said, this is how you sound. And this is what, and I thought, Johnny Heller even told me, you sound like you're talking in the front of your mouth now instead of the back. And I was stunned because that's exactly what my therapist told me was one of my problems. Talking back here in my throat was what's causing a lot of my vocal issues. When you start talking more in the front of your mouth where your teeth are, then you don't put as much stress on your vocal cords.
Mm-hmm.
So when he said that, I thought, well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do because he could hear it. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for coaching, I don't have that. Now, I coach for 2 people. I coach for David Lawrence, the 17th, and his VO Heroes group. Sometimes I had to step out about a year ago because things just got too busy around the house and the farm. And I coach for Christy Bowen at the
Mm-hmm.
TNVO studios.
Mm-hmm.
But I only do how to get started in audiobooks, and
Right.
almost everything
Right.
I do is about audiobooks. So it's never about coaching in any other form of VO, and
Mm-hmm.
it's never about performance coaching. I tell
Yeah.
you what,
Mhm.
you know, what holes to miss, how to, smooth out the bumpy roads,
Yep.
and, how to find work, and how to avoid some pitfalls with ACX, and how to do research, because
That
that's one of the most important things.
that's a big help to me to hear that because I've always had trouble defining to other people. I even had a coach ask me one time, he said, are you coaching? I said, no. He said, well, if you were, I'd have to tell you I can't coach you anymore because how do I know you're not coaching mama? And I agree with them. I understand it. And I'm with you. I like the mentoring. I like taking new people and showing them. I like bringing
Right.
them into a workshop and saying, no, break down the copy this way. I'm not the best at it, but at least can help
Right.
them get over the hump where they, for lack of a better term, so they won't suck when they go try to get work. And I'm
Exactly.
just trying to bring them along and help them,
Yeah.
and I appreciate hearing that because sometimes I struggle with, am I doing the wrong thing by helping people?
Sure.
I don't want to give people the wrong idea. I don't want to
Right.
coach. I don't want to coach. I just want to
Right.
help and mentor, and I think that's great.
Well, and
And
we started this podcast to be a help as well.
Yeah,
and I tell
exactly.
people all the time, I feel a little goofy if I start taking money from you and all I'm doing is telling you what my coaches told me.
Right.
Right,
That's all I'm
Right.
doing.
right,
I'm just telling
Right.
you what my
Yeah.
coaches told me. I'm not
right. We're,
reinventing the wheel here.
Right.
No.
We're
You
not
know?
reinventing the wheel. And that was what I asked one of those coaches who said that to me. I said, but you learned it from somebody else also. So
Right.
it just keeps churning and
Yeah.
going around,
Yeah.
it's all the same information, but it's all presented differently. And that's
Sure.
what I find is I've had one coach try to teach me something and I didn't get it because of the way he taught it. And the next one taught me the same thing in a different way and the bell goes off.
Boom.
And
Bell
that's
goes
what it
right.
takes. That's what it
Yeah,
takes.
it is.
Hey, Rodney, we won't hold you up any longer. I know the Mexican
I'm
restaurant's open and
I'm
waiting.
good.
It's about that time.
Not
And
for this boy. Not
Me
today.
either.
I'm
Me
at home
either.
with a 16-year-old doing 10th grade math. That's what's
Oh,
next.
There you
There you
go.
That's when I really say bless your heart, because my
A squared plus B
youngest,
squared equals C squared. The
Yes, it does.
Pythagorean theorem.
and
Pythagorean.
I pulled your routine. I've got a couple kids at one's 40, one's 38, and then I've got my other one that's about to turn 20. So I know what you're going through.
Yeah.
I did it at 40 instead of 50, and I don't know if I could have done it at 50, but that's
Well,
I'm
I'm
50
lucky.
now. I can't imagine doing that.
I can't either.
I'm
I
very
can't either.
fortunate. I've got really good health. I've got a
There
great
you go.
wife, and
Yeah.
That's what it takes.
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun.
I'm
It
not
is.
50.
It
I don't
is.
have kids, and my schedule's wide open. So in your faces,
Yeah,
guys.
whatever.
And he still
Whatever.
has hair too.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, listen, thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
You and I
Anytime.
have
Yeah.
you and I have still got to do lunch or
We
something
will.
sometime.
We
We'll
will.
get to
It'll
it.
happen.
And after the first year, when you're ready, we'll jump into all this other stuff.
right,
and,
buddy.
and
We
start
will.
working on it. For Jake, for Alden, for J Rodney, thanks for joining us, everybody. We really appreciate it. Have a good
Yep.
one, and heck, we may have to stretch this into 2 episodes, but that's okay. We'll split it
Y'all
up.
be
and do it.
good. Bye-bye.
Oh yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.